the guy you mentioned, Bukayo Saka, already said he ran the show, put that ball on a sixpence for Martinelli. Martinelli's basically on the goal line when his foot connects with the ball. And Saka's lofted it, and then it's come down, and he plays the pass for Havertz's goal. Obviously, gets his own goal at the end. Man, I've been Bukayo Saka's biggest fan. I've been telling guys the conversations that Bukayo Saka should be in, but he's really just showing it week in, week out. This guy is playing at a different level.
Yeah, he is. I mean,
I was talking to Arman the other day about Palmer and Saka, and Arman said it himself. He was like, I think Palmer should be in the Foden conversation at the minute. I don't think he's with Saka yet, right? I think he was like, and it's easier to compare them two because they're kind of both 10s and whatever. Saka's very much out on the right. But Palmer needs to do this for 4 years before he can chat to Saka.
No, I think it's difficult to compare the two for that reason. Because I think Palmer has hit a level very quickly. But Saka
did as well.
Yeah. To my point is, Saka's built his way up to this level for all to see. It's kind of like, especially if you're an Arsenal fan, you've seen Saka put the work in. You've seen how much he's progressed year on year to get to where he is right now. Cole Palmer's kind of like he was always a good player. He was obviously from Man City's academy, but no one really knew how good he is and could be type of thing. And here he is. He's so good. So he's
had one good season, yeah.
He's going to get that. But it was it was a great season.
Yeah.
So the reason I can't compare them is, for me, it's just positionally. I think in terms of their ability, they're two of the best England have to offer.
I think it's consistency as well.
Yeah, but it doesn't look like Palmer's consistency's dropped off. You know,
it might not look like it.
Saka's not.
There's 4 years of evidence here that you need to come and compete with.
Yeah, but I think that's all going to be like accolade stuff, what they've done goals and assist wise for over the last 4 years. I think the reason Palmer can't chat to Saka is because Saka is one of the best wingers in the league, and Palmer can.
And he's also doing it for a team competing to win the league.
Yeah.
He's not doing it for a team that's playing Conference League.
But I don't factor that in when I'm talking about ability of a player. Like,
no, but that's a big thing.
It's a big thing.
Not every player that does it for a Conference League team will go and do the same thing.
But if you have that ability, you should find yourself at the bigger clubs. You know, and there's a lot of players that.
Yeah, but can the pressure that comes? We now have to win every game. You now have to do this every week. Yeah, you're getting treated differently. Teams know how good you are.
For sure. Those contextual.
It's not a direct translation.
Those contextual things matter, but for me, the reason it's not a direct translation is because they play two different positions. I feel like Saka is, and for the last 4 years has been showing us his levels as a winger, and Palmer hasn't done that. But for me, it's not just because of the 4 years thing. It's just because Palmer should be a 10, and Saka is so clearly one of the best wingers in the country. Full stop. Yeah. And Foden and Palmer, that makes sense. Foden can play wing, but to me, he's not a winger. And the Palmer-Foden thing, 100% is a more likely or makes more sense to me to compare the two, because they've both had great years in the past. Especially if you just look at the last 2 years, last season together, both scored 20-ish goals playing in several positions between the center of the pitch and on wing at times. Saka is a right winger.
Yeah, but I don't think the positional thing is that deep, because like there'd be no conversation about saying Palmer's better than Salah. You just know Salah's better.
Yeah.
And Salah's a right winger and Palmer's best position is a 10.
But I mean,
it's the same thing.
Guys are kind of saying Palmer's the best player in the league now. Does that mean he's better than Salah?
No, he's not better than Salah. That's a fact.
But the discussion is there. I don't think he's better than Salah. But you can't say that. The discussion is there.
But guys discussed Romero and Van de Ven over Saliba and Gabriel.
Unfortunately,
that discussion's there.
Unfortunately,
we can't give those kind of discussions credit.
Unfortunately, the discussion. But if you're a Chelsea fan, there'll be people aren't Chelsea fans that will say, I think the Palmer one.
I respect Chelsea fans for putting Palmer on that pedestal, saying that stuff, because they should back their player. The problem is that Arsenal fans compare Saka to guys like Kudus.
Yeah, but even that, I think Arsenal fans don't really compare Saka to Palmer. But I understand the comparison. I understand these are two generational English talents as it stands right now. And like, as good as I know, it's only been 1 year.
But there's not really any comparison for me.
That's my point. Yeah. The reason I can't compare them is because I see them as two different players. Like I see them they play in two different positions. I think Saka is better than Palmer, but I'm also not going to look at anybody crazy for saying that Palmer is or trying to put Palmer in these conversations. It's
No,
like
if someone tells me Palmer's better than Saka, I will look at them crazy.
it's like Alex. I would assume this person is a casual football fan.
Yeah, yeah.
And like if you're a casual football fan, Palmer will get you off your seat. I don't know if Saka will.
Oh, come on, man.
I don't know if Saka will.
This is what I mean, man. Arsenal fans just not giving the guy the respect he deserves.
I think Saka's in every.
That's the
conversation.
difference. Chelsea fan will push him into Hazard conversations, and Arsenal fans won't.
Yeah, and that's too far from Chelsea fans. And I also truly believe
Saka won't get you off your seat.
Saka's a world-class player, but I'm not mad at other fans for not saying Saka's a world-class player. I'm not. I truly believe Saka's a world-class player, but we know what's holding Saka back.
Yeah, the trophies. Yeah.
And once Saka gets a trophy, I will be there to rub it in everybody's faces. I'll be there to rub it in like what Chelsea fans are going to tell you right now is they've won the same in their career. In fact,
but then shouldn't Foden be top of the list?
In terms of what?
Because he's got the trophies.
Oh yeah, I guess he does have the trophies for Manchester City, but to be fair, they don't really seem to count those. Like the Palmer discussion, it never really comes with. We can only account it on ability, and Saka ability is top for Arsenal Football Club, who are challenging for the league. Saka is our most decisive player,
and has been for 4 years.
That's his biggest credit.
Yeah.
That's his biggest compliment.
He's had the attack on his back for 4 years.
Yeah, and to be fair to Cole Palmer, the reason I'm not going to slander Cole Palmer is because I think
I'm not slandering Cole Palmer. We're talking about Bukayo Saka.
You're saying you're looking at people crazy. Yeah, I'm just saying
it's not. We're talking about Bukayo Saka.
I think Saka is a better player than Cole Palmer, but I understand.
We're not talking about Mohamed Kudus.
Kudus is a good player too.
They're all right. They're nice. They're not Bukayo Saka.
For me,
they're not the second best player in his position in the world.
Between me and I think Saka is the second
after
best.
Salah, who is it?
I think Saka is probably the second best winger in the world. Well, I guess after Salah, but guys are going to put other people in conversations. Lamine Yamal, he's won this, he's won that. That is the last thing holding Saka back. You like as an Arsenal fan, we have to put the bias aside. Like, it's the last thing holding him back from. I could put Saka ahead of Salah as soon as he gets his hand on the Premier League, or as soon as, and I'll say currently, right now,
is Foden above Saka?
But this Foden and the Palmer thing you can compare. Foden is not. If I'm asking who's a better winger, Saka's a better winger than Foden.
Who's a better player? Because Foden's won the trophies. Like you're saying about Yamal's won the trophies. Foden's won the trophies.
I would rather have Saka in my team than Foden, but if you're asking me a purist opinion on who's a better footballer, I think Foden's might be a better footballer.
Yeah, I understand what you've done there, but Saka's a better player.
If you're asking me who I'd have Saka.
Yeah,
I'd build my team around Saka.
Yeah.
But if you're asking me who's going to do the fundamentals right and who's going to do X, Y, and Z as a footballer right, I would probably say he's technically sound. He strikes the ball clean, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, but then you take Rico Lewis over Foden? Rico Lewis is probably a more pure footballer.
I don't agree with that. Rico Lewis is nice, but Foden's got it. But that's my thing. Each and every football fan is going to have to reach their own on what they agree on. And I'm not mad that.
But that's different. Oh, those are two different arguments, isn't it?
Yeah,
I'm just asking who the better player, and the better player is Saka.
Yeah, I think the better player is, but in what context? Because this is a very general question. It's like, who do I prefer? I prefer Saka.
Who's the better player?
Fundamentally.
It's like if I told you who's the better player for Palmer or Salah, we know it's Salah. We don't need to have a conversation.
Yeah, because Salah can do pretty much everything Palmer can do and has been doing it for a while, which is your point with Saka. But I'm not mad at people putting Palmer in the best player of the league conversations. I don't think he is, but I'm not mad at it.
Yeah, they can put him in the conversations if they want.
Like, I'm not mad at it. Palmer's probably had the most nuts 12 to 18 months of any Premier League player in the last 3 years. And like Saka has achieved all of these things in those years, but Palmer's still
been more nuts than Haaland.
Yeah. And Haaland's probably the only other guy that has had a more nuts. Because like the stuff Palmer doing,
I think Foden scoring 19 league goals and winning the title,
it's pretty nuts.
Is more nuts than what Palmer's done.
And it's in the conversation. They're all in the same conversation.
Yeah.
Because I think scoring 22 goals, as 10 of them, 12 of them being pens, whatever it is.
There's years that Palmer needs to put down of numbers before he can really chat to Saka.
But if you're talking about numbers,
I'm not putting Palmer in these conversations after one good year.
Yeah, I'm not. But if we're talking about ability,
That where he got his team Conference League.
I think Palmer and Saka, ability wise, could be with Foden. I think he's that. I think I was gonna say maybe they're better than Jude, but I think they should be linchpins of England's success or any potential
Yeah, but I don't
success
think you
of
can
any
get all three in
manager.
the team.
I would rather, and I just said that Foden might be a better footballer, but I'd rather drop Foden out for a Palmer Saka
Yeah, I'd probably
combination.
agree. I probably agree.
And this is to the point of Saka being decisive, 4 years, Arsenal Football Club,
Yeah.
challenging for titles, being the best winger of the three. Saka is so clearly the best in his position. He's even more clear. It's more clear who's better between Saka as a right winger and Foden, Bellingham, Palmer as a 10. It's so clear. Saka starts right wing. Lock that down. Lock that in. Saka starts right wing. Arsenal, lock that down. Lock that in. I think it's crazy for people to talk otherwise. There, I'll chat to you. Like if anybody's trying to chat to me about Saka should bench for Palmer or for Foden as a right winger or Saka, that is ludicrous.
Yeah.
But I understand how football fans are going to be. I agree that what Palmer's doing is nuts. And I'm fully aware of how good Saka is for us. But as soon as he gets the trophies, that's it. Because I'm tired of defending Saka, going out on the leg defending Saka, and then everybody comes to tell me, oh, but he's won the same as Palmer last season. He won the same as X, Y, and Z. Him and Mbeumo have the same trophies, And okay.
Yeah, but if you're gonna put,
but that's
Saka,
it. That's the game.
If you're gonna put Saka and Kudu's conversations, you might deserve that. I can't lie.
I think, and I will defend this. I think Kudus is a really good player, and Kudus. My point was,
is nice.
Kudus can change games for West Ham the same way Saka changes games for us. That was literally what I said, and I stand on that. I literally stand on that.
You said Kudus could get to the level that Saka's at
in terms of changing games for us, the way Saka changes games for us.
You said he could get to that level.
I said,
and he can't.
Specifically, it won't be a goals and assist thing, but it's just about who's going to be the decisive man.
And this is my point again. Like changing games for West Ham, do that. Get your team to finish 10th. Good job.
But Saka's got to win the league. Before we start chatting like this,
we're over here.
We've got to win the league. We've got to win the league
right?
Before we start chatting like this.
To be in the title race, to be in the top 2.
But when it gets to the top 2 stuff, who cares about who finishes 2?
But you
have to finish one.
Complained about that. About guys telling you, Palmer won the same as Saka.
And that's my point. I need to put Saka in these conversations of undoubtedly world class amongst any casual or non-casual.
But you'll do that. You guys were ready to do that with Harry Kane after 4 seasons of putting the numbers up.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Ready, more.
That's true. But
that's
ready.
But
that's the tax Bukayo Saka's gonna have. He's always gonna have that tax. Bukayo, there's no way the world of football will call Bukayo world class until he gets a hand on the top trophy.
But then I don't know how you're picking Foden Palmer over Foden. Because you said in the England team you'd have Palmer over Foden.
Yeah, I would have Palmer over
Foden. But Foden has all the trophies.
Yeah, but we're talking about ability here. I think Palmer has the ability, and I would prefer to see that. Palmer's an entertainer. I like Palmer's game. I prefer Palmer's game to Foden's game, but I respect Foden's game.
So we understand what Saka's ability is.
Yeah, I understand what Saka. I'm not in any doubt of Saka's ability. I'm not in any doubt. Well, he just needs the accolades to go along with it.
When you compare him to Kudus, man, I don't know, man. It's just, I think you might not really understand what Saka.
For me to really stick my chest out with Saka, the way I've already been sticking my chest out with Saka, but for me to really stick my chest out with Saka, it's when the trophy comes, he will be the story of a lifetime. He'll be the story of a lifetime.
But you'll call Palmer the best player in the league.
I don't think Palmer's the best player in the league.
Or you'll say you won't bat an eyelid to it.
Fans putting Palmer in the best player in the league conversations, I know that's going to happen. I understand why it's going to happen. He hasn't won a trophy.
So it's different arguments for different
players. So what, is Saka the best player in the league then?
No.
So we're on the same page?
But if someone told me that Saka was the best player in the league, I would say, no, I don't think you can say that.
I would say the same thing with Palmer. I'll tell somebody, I don't think you can say that. I don't agree that he's the best player in the league.
But if someone told you that Palmer was better than Saka...
If someone told me that Palmer was better than Saka, I would disagree with him.
Okay.
But I understand.
Because at the start, you weren't too sure.
No. I think Palmer and Saka are the talents that you should mold. They're the talents.
But then how come you can't put Foden in there when Foden's got the trophies?
I like Foden's game. Foden's got the trophies. That's why you can't disrespect Foden. But as high as I rate Foden, I even said earlier in this pod that I think if you start asking me who's the better footballer
So
Say
rank
Foden
the
is the
three of
better
them.
forward. In terms of what?
We'll end this signal. Who's in terms of players?
In terms of footballing ability.
No. Who's the best player? 1 to 3.
Footballing ability.
Who's the best player? If I asked you who's got the best footballing ability out of Palmer and Salah, that's a different question.
That's the
Right?
only question I'm interested
I'm asking
in.
you, who's the best player?
Who I understand to be the best footballer between.
Because we could say Pau Torres is the best centre back in the league based on footballing ability.
I wouldn't say that.
Based on purist and what we want to look at, and
I wouldn't say
all of
that.
this. Pau Torres, bring him to the conversation. No, who's the best player? 1 to 3.
It depends. I define the player question as, in this context, footballing ability. And if I'm saying who I think has the best footballing ability, I would go Foden, Saka, Palmer. If you was to ask me who would I start, Saka, Palmer, Foden. If you're asking me who do I think has the better career,
So there's 2 different lists.
Yeah.
Completely different lists.
100%.
For footballing ability, and who you said just now, the best player for you is who you think has the best footballing ability.
Yeah.
So you've put Palmer third on that list. But then, in terms of who you want to start,
I would start
he's above Foden.
Yes,
Who's the best
100%,
player?
100%.
You just called Foden the best player of the 3.
If in terms of footballing ability, yeah. But as I said, my entertainment value, who I think is cold, who I'd nourish, it would be Palmer, it would be Saka.
So
I'm not going to disrespect
so you'd put
Foden's
the
game.
best player out of the team.
In
That's
terms
what
of,
you would do.
Yeah. I would.
Cool.
I would, and I think I'd get more wins that way.
Yeah, at least you're consistent.
I would.
You've called him the best player and then said he doesn't get in the team.
He doesn't.
Above the other 2.
But he is. Your Foden is cold. Who would you say is the best player?
I think the best player is Saka, then Foden, then Palmer.
What makes Saka better than Palmer or Foden?
Saka's done it for 4 years and he's doing it for a team that's competing for the title.
And Foden?
Last season, Foden had a big season. That was the season that we all wanted to see from Foden. So, if like how I said, if you told me Palmer's better than Saka, I'll look at you crazy. If you tell me Foden's better than Saka, I won't really look at you like that's crazy and whatever. The England thing is big. We've spoken about it, right? You've even said that Foden, if he comes back and starts balling for Man City, there's questions about system player with Pep and can he do it in England. Saka's always been putting England on his back, multiple tournaments, scoring big goals. But I think last season, as much as that was a big season for Foden, I think Saka's a better player. I think Saka plays more consistently. He plays almost every game, and he's carried an Arsenal attack on his back for the last. Well, if we include this season, which he looks like he's going to do for the last 3 seasons, he's put an Arsenal attack on his back and carried them to a title race.
But wouldn't the caveat be that Foden's put a Man City team on his back and won the title?
On his back is questionable.
Haaland was out, Foden was scoring goals.
How many goals did Haaland score last year?
Yeah, a lot of goals. A lot of
27, 28?
But now we're moving the goalposts about what is a good...
No, because you're saying, didn't Foden carry an attack on his back last year? And win the title? No, he didn't.
I think Foden carried the team for a large part of that season.
Bro, if another player scores 27 league goals, you cannot tell me that someone else carried the attack.
I don't know, because Haaland was out.
Ludicrous.
Haaland was out for periods of last season.
Yeah.
And who was stepping up?
Yeah, and Foden stepped up for sure. But that's not carrying an attack on his back.
I mean...
Someone else scored 27 goals.
I mean...
If Havertz scored 27 goals last year, I wouldn't say Saka carried the team on their back.
I just think we're shifting the goalposts now.
What were the other numbers last year for the Arsenal goals? Arsenal assists?
Hey, Havertz stepped up.
We know Saka's been carrying the team. There's no goalpost shifting.
But I can't give somebody, and I give Saka as an Arsenal fan credit for carrying a team to a title challenge, but it doesn't hold weight in best player conversations. Title challenge. You need to win the trophy.
But they would call Harry Kane the best striker in the league.
But I'm not speaking about Harry Kane.
But you would call him the best striker in the league.
I've never said he's the best striker in the league.
Yeah,
I've said he's a world-class player, but I've never said he's the best striker in the league.
Said he's the best striker in the league.
Best striker, me to say Harry Kane.
Yeah.
I've had Aguero ahead of him.
Okay, and then when Aguero was gone,
I had Aubameyang up there. I was forcing the Aubameyang thing.
I was the one saying Aubameyang over Kane. You were saying Kane over Aubameyang.
I think all of them have unbelievable ability, and I have contradicted myself in terms of who do I think is a better player and who do I start. But that's just because I rate a lot of what Foden's done, but don't actually think I would start him in my teams. But I rate him as a player. I rate what he's done in football. He's been involved in title challenges for 4 years. He's scored big goals in games when he was, 18, 19, 20, all this kind of stuff, and had a monster year last year. Like, He's a very, very, very impressive footballer. I'm not mad at anybody saying he's a better footballer than Saka or a better player than Saka, or having a better career than Saka. But for me, once Saka gets those trophies, everything you're saying now comes to you. You're just early to the party. Want everything that you would say
because
that
I can see it. I can see it before everyone else.
Agreed. And I can see it with Saka, but to really laud it and not contradict myself on slandering all these other guys that have been great players.
But then you didn't have Foden. You said Foden's bench for the other two.
Yeah. But in terms of
that's contradicting yourself.
I've already agreed to that contradiction. I think Foden is a better player because I respect what he's done. But in terms of who do I prefer Saka. I prefer Palmer. But I think Foden could be a better player than all of those guys. Is a better player than those guys. Has a better career so far than all of those guys.
Yeah.
But I just prefer football-wise Saka and Palmer. But I
leave your best player on the bench.
Respect the hell out of what Foden's done. Respect the hell out. It's out of respect that I put him in these conversations. I just personally don't think he's my type of guy for reasons that you've mentioned. He's in and out.
Yeah.
Other guys do a lot more. But for every argument that you're putting Saka forward for, you could put Foden for.
No, I can't.
You could put Foden.
No, I can't.
That's the bias. That's the Arsenal bias talking. Because Foden's done it, man. Foden's been linchpins.
An attack on his back.
But carrying. Look, getting
one season, Foden's done
getting
that.
19 goals in a title-winning season is better than getting 16 goals and finishing second.
Bro, if Bukayo Saka...
It is.
And this is where I can tell you, categorically that there's no bias, and that you're wrong here. Because if Bukayo Saka scores 19 goals
and win the league,
Arsenal win the league, but Kai Havertz scores 27, I'm not going to say Bukayo Saka put the Arsenal team on his back. Categorically, I won't say that. Proof here, now, on camera. There's no bias involved. There's none of that, right? If anything, I'll be telling, man, Kai Havertz put this attack on his back. So he went and scored 27 league goals.
If Bukayo Saka scores 90 goals in a title-winning team, but Foden this season scores 16 goals in a good effort, and they come second place.
And how many does Haaland get?
Who's had a better season? Who's been more influential?
Who's had a better season? Saka's had a better season because he's won a trophy. Last year, Foden had a better season.
This is my point with the Saka thing. This will always be my point with the Saka thing.
That's not the conversation. You're changing the argument.
You're changing the argument.
No, because the original argument was you talking about biasness and Arsenal bias carrying an attack on their back. That's the original argument.
No, the original argument is who is the better player? Who would you start? Who do you think is nice?
Yeah, but who's the better player and who's had a better season? That's not the same argument.
It's not the same argument.
Exactly.
I agree with you on that one.
And I gave two different answers.
And I gave two different answers on who do I think is a better player and who would I start.
So would you tell me that Foden carried the attack on his back last year?
I would say Foden was a linchpin.
That's not what I asked.
Would I say he carried the attack? I would say at times of the season, yeah, I would. At times he did.
Season.
Maybe not for the whole season.
Okay.
But even for a whole season.
So then there's a difference. Like I said, bro, there's no bias here. Havertz, go.
No, you can't say that there's no bias. There is a Saka bias.
Havertz go and score 27 goals. You will not hear me say that Saka carried the team on his back to the title. So you won't hear me say that.
Okay. So now that we've moved on from if Havertz was to theoretically score 27 goals and to keep it on the three English players and their talent and their ability and their success. Yeah. The reasons, I'm still trying to find the reasons why you've put Saka ahead of Palmer or Foden as the better player. And you've said for 4 years he's been carrying. For 2 of those years we finished in title races.
I think the Palmer thing should be so obvious.
For 2 of those years, I agree. Palmer, he has less on his CV, but for ability reasons, I'm not mad at people putting him in. I think Palmer has the ability to be as good as Saka, to be as good as
Dele Alli had 2-3 good years as well.
Dele Alli had the ability to be as good as
he had 2-3 good years as well.
Well, he wasn't in the end, but he had the ability to be. That's why the longevity thing matters, but Foden's got the longevity thing. Foden's been having pretty good seasons, but then he's had a monster year.
We both said last year that we haven't seen Foden come in and be that guy, and that's what we expected of him last year.
And he kind of was.
He was last year. He came in and was that guy, like you say, at points in the season.
You agree he was that guy at points in the season?
At points in the season, yeah. But that's not. Bukayo Saka's not been that guy for points in the season. He's been that guy for the whole season.
Well, that's where we disagree. Because I had periods of our season where I thought Bukayo Saka was performing at a very good level, but Odegaard was, for me, the guy. Odegaard was making things run. He was making things happen. And and you can't say no bias.
But this is the thing. Guys want to tell me about Odegaard. We've had no Odegaard for some of our toughest fixtures of the season. It doesn't really look like we missed him.
So what, is he a bad player, Odegaard?
No, that's not what I'm saying. But the conversation isn't about is Odegaard a bad player or not.
It's not.
Right? But Saka's been. There's no Odegaard, and Saka just keeps ticking over the numbers. Was it 7 assists in 7 games?
I think
2 goals.
there's a
But
consensus
you put
amongst
Odegaard in there, you take Saka out. I don't think we want to see that.
truly, for me, the no biased opinion is there's a consensus among Arsenal fans about who Saka is and how good he is, and I agree with that. But I also understand the other bias, the other opinion of Saka needs a trophy, and I fully understand that guys will not give Saka his flowers until he gets a trophy. He won't. They won't.
Yeah.
They
I
won't.
get that.
And Foden and Palmer. Palmer is more likely to get his
but
flowers.
those same guys will give Harry Kane his flowers.
Palmer is more likely to get his flowers and not win a trophy.
That's an Arsenal bias thing.
Than Saka is to do the same thing. And
because Palmer doesn't have his trophies, but they're gonna give him Harry Kane.
But if Saka is who he is, if Saka is
an Arsenal bias,
if he
they don't want to put Saka in those.
If he is who we think he is, the day will come and the stocks will go public and we'll IPO.
Yeah. And I'll sat here and I'll say, I told you so.
Exactly. And I'm more on the side of I can't wait for the day to come, or like when the day comes, I'll be there with my stocks and my shares, ringing the bell. But I agree, and I fully understand the disrespect, the feeling of the disrespect that Arsenal fans give Saka, because I mean, other Arsenal fans who also think, yeah, he's all right, Saka's a good player, but they don't have him on a certain pedigree. But I just fully understand that Saka won't ever get the love and respect that he deserves. Maybe from Arsenal fans, but definitely from... Actually, I can't say that. He gets a lot of love from Arsenal fans, but definitely from the wider audience until he slays the dragon, until he gets the big trophy.
Yeah.
And people...
The respect that Cole Palmer's already getting.
The same way, but... And I think Palmer's getting a lot of respect, but I still think that people will
you're not hearing anyone say... I'm not hearing you say Palmer needs to win this and this. And
no,
this.
But that goes without saying. I'm saying this of Saka.
Exactly, but I'm not hearing that about Palmer.
I'm saying this of Saka, but this is the bias that's coming in. It's like we have to fight for my corner.
The Arsenal bias, isn't it? My negative Arsenal bias, because guys are saying this for Saka, but they won't say it for Palmer.
Yeah, but I think for Palmer, I agree.
Guys will say Saka has to do it in the Champions League, but they won't say that for Palmer.
But the minute Palmer gets in the Champions League, the minute Palmer gets into the title race type conversations,
when's that going to be?
We don't know.
Can you do what Saka did and take your team to the Champions League? We'll see.
But that's my point. Guys are saying, can you do
what Foden didn't do that?
But guys, there's Man City fans at home who are saying, can you do what Foden's done and actually win it? Well, that's my point. Once Saka gets
Foden didn't win it, did he?
But now look, we're not
having a conversation about who's the better team, Arsenal, Man City, or Chelsea. We're having a conversation about who's the better player.
And for as crazy,
because all of a sudden, does that make Kovacic better than Rice?
No, but
you see, those are the conversations you go down. If you don't have the actual player conversation.
But the same way you say you think it's crazy for people to say that Palmer's a better player than Saka is the same way people will look at you to say it's crazy that Saka's a better player than Foden. Like there will be people out there who look at Foden and what he's done and the resume and combine the two and just say this obviously is the better player. He's won these trophies. He's got these goals and assists. He has to be the better player. Like there will be people out there that will look at you crazy for saying Saka is better than Foden. And I understand why you say Saka is better than Foden.
But the only argument they'll bring is trophies, right? Which is a valid argument. But then I'll ask them what they think of Harry Kane. And if they're consistent with it, then cool. Cool. As long as you're consistent, I don't mind. Right? And I'll also ask them about, there's so many players that have won trophies, yeah? Let's say it is a Man City fan. I'll ask them if Carvajal's better than Walker. And guarantee you they won't say that.
But that's why I always split the question into two. Like, I've been a big proponent of...
Because in that sense, Saka could win one Premier League and they could still tell me that. But you're saying that once Saka wins that Premier League, then you'll catapult him into all these conversations.
I will.
But they'll still look at you crazy.
Yeah. But now how will we look at Cole Palmer?
Well, I'm looking at Cole Palmer the same way.
Yeah, right? but they're looking at Cole Palmer as equals because they've won the same.
Who?
In the guys who are making the arguments, the guys who are talking about.
Well, Cole Palmer's actually won league titles.
Once he's a made man, to be fair, but he's been a part of.
Actually won them.
Once he's a made man, once Saka's in that conversation,
but they will still look at you crazy.
No, I feel like at that point, if you
try and compare him to Foden, they will still look at, because your argument is the same. Foden's won this, and this. He's obviously the better player.
It's not that if Saka wins one Premier League, he's automatically a better player than Foden. I will just promote it as such, or I will at least say he's won what he needs to win. Because I truly believe that if Saka gets his one, then he's a made man. All the stuff you're talking about, the 4 years, the close calls.
But they can still look at you like you're crazy.
They could.
So the point, what's really the point there?
I think the point is to make sure your guys are made man. I think that is the
But
point.
they'll still look at you crazy. So what difference does it make?
I don't think they can look at you as crazy as if he is a made man.
No, they will, because they'll tell you, well, he's won 1, Foden's won 6, he's won Champions League.
They could say
It's
all
obvious
of that.
who's the better player. Your
But
exact same
the
argument.
Kudus, the Embuemo conversations, the
Nobody
conversations
is putting him in those conversations other than you.
I'm not putting him in these conversations. All I said was that Kudus is a good player.
You literally have.
No, I think you've made too much of the Kudus thing. Kudus is a good player. Saka is a very, 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 very good player. And the only thing stopping Saka from being world class is a unanimous trophy that everybody respects. That's it.
Yeah.
That fully is it. And the rankings of who's better between Palmer, Foden, Saka, which I guess everybody should let us know where they have these guys. For now, to make it a level playing ground, has to be on player ability. Otherwise, you'll choose Foden. Otherwise, you'll choose Palmer. Because you'll look at the player ability plus
and
trophies.
on player ability, you had Foden first, yeah?
Yeah. Otherwise, you'll choose Foden. Otherwise, you'll choose Palmer because you'll combine player ability with trophies won and say that this is the better player.
But,
so
but purely on player ability, you still went with Foden, yeah?
Purely on purest player ability, yeah. In terms of who's technically sound, who would I choose? Saka. If I had to choose one of them, if I was a captain,
why would you choose Saka over Foden?
The PMP.
So who's the better player?
Foden is still the better footballer, but Saka is the better.
I'm not asking footballer. I'm literally just asking who's the better player. But I guess this would answer it, right? And I think you've already answered this. But if you're building a team and you can pick one of,
I'll
those
choose
three,
Saka.
you choose Saka. Okay, so to me that tells me that you think he's the best player. Because why would you not pick the best player? Right? Why would you pick the second best or the third best?
It depends. Because it's like choosing FIFA. You don't always choose Real Madrid. Why don't you just choose the best team? Like sometimes you actually prefer.
No, but if I had my pick of all the players in the game, I would pick Vinny or Mbappe.
Yeah, if I agree, but I don't think it's as black and white as everybody would just choose the best player if they had one pick.
No, I'm not saying everybody, but I'm saying why would you not choose the best player?
I might prefer certain other styles of football. I might prefer certain players for certain reasons. Like somebody might choose Vinny for a different reason as to why they would choose Mbappe, and they have a reason as to why for them that's the best player.
But you would pick Saka because
I would pick Saka because one, there's bias involved, and two, I genuinely believe that if I was to have Saka on the right wing, I'm sorted. I've got 15 goals, 15 assists.
But if you had Palmer or Foden in the 10?
But if I had Palmer or Foden in the 10, I know I've got a real footballer.
You've probably got, 10 and 10 minimum?
But I know I've got a style of play. I know I've got a real footballer
with
in
Palmer
the 10.
and Foden.
Yeah, I know I've got the half-turn guy that can slot guys in.
That.
I would prefer the Saka thing right now, yeah.
Because
I like how Saka balls.
Okay.
I do.
I think you're the one with the bias thing.
About biased in what sense?
Because you're saying you're picking Saka because there's bias involved. Right?
I definitely have an Arsenal bias.
Of the three, who would I pick? I would just pick Saka because I think he's the best player. There's nothing more to it than that.
Okay. That's fair.
That's it.
I don't think that's crazy because I agree that Saka is a very good player, but I also equally don't think it's crazy for anybody to choose any of the other three or two. I don't.
I think if you picked Palmer over Foden or Saka, I think that would be crazy. Unless you're a Chelsea.
I think there'll be a wrong decision, but I don't know if it would be crazy.
Well, wrong decision, crazy. It's not too far off it to me, right? You're wrong, right? At the end of the day, for picking Palmer, but you pick Foden, fair enough, right?
Also,
but to me, I would just pick the best player.
The same way you're saying, when the day for the IPO to come, my stocks are gonna realize, is the same way the Chelsea fan is thinking about Palmer. They're saying you don't know
They're
Palmer.
not even close to that.
But they're saying
you need to lay down 3 years of groundwork, get yourself in a title race, get to where you are. They can't even be thinking about that.
And this is why I like to remove, and it's tough because obviously they play for different clubs, but I like to if we're talking about playability and best player, like I think Palmer could do what he's doing for a title winning team. We haven't seen it, so I can't guarantee it, but I think he could do it based off the ability he's shown right now.
I think Saka could do more than what Foden has done for Man City. But we won't see that.
Yeah.
It's the same sort of argument.
No, 100. That's why I like to remove the club situation.
Hypotheticals. You can only base it on what we've seen.
That's why I won't kill Palmer.
And I've said this before. I'm not saying that Palmer can't or won't do this for 4 years, but I need to see it before I can put him in these conversations.
And that's a fair point. You know what? That is a fair point. I just look at Palmer's ability, and I think, I don't need to see Palmer do this for 4 years to know that he can chat to a lot of guys about his footballing ability. Like I don't need to see Palmer do this for another 3 years to be. And
that's what guys were saying about Dele Alli, and I tried to tell them then as well.
It's true. I wasn't saying that about Dele Alli though. I wasn't saying that about Dele Alli, and I think the same thing about Harry Kane. Like after year 4 or whatever, and even that's 4 years. But I'm sure the guys were saying after the year 1, I've seen enough to know that this guy's going to be doing this in year 4. I wasn't one of those guys in year 1, but after year 4, I'm like, calm. Same thing with Salah. So I agree. There is an element of like certain players, you need to see them do it for year on year on year to truly believe. But there's also certain guys that I don't need to take too long to realize that, all right,
because Palmer could have 4 years of playing Europa League and Conference League.
Yeah, he could.
That's a very real possibility.
He could. And he to be fair, if I think his ability is what it is, he should probably get Chelsea, whether it's not this season,
Saka did.
In the next 4 years, in the start of his project, should get Chelsea into the top 4.
Do what Saka did.
Yeah. But I don't think that, to be fair, even if he stays in the Europa League or X, Y, and Z, that I will look down on him like that.
Yeah, it's not about looking down. Look, guys are trying to compare him to, in my opinion, the second best right winger in world football. Right? So it's nothing to look down on. But if in 4 years' time, Palmer hasn't played Champions League football with Chelsea, or hasn't consistently played Champions League football with Chelsea, that's a problem. You can't bring him to Saka conversations.
Yeah, but we also have to give Arteta a lot of credit. Arteta put a serious team around Saka. Palmer might might stay at the same level and just never have a serious right back.
But those are the hypotheticals,
and that's why I like to remove the club thing from what they've done.
You just got to go on what you've seen. What we've seen.
That's why I like to remove the club thing, because there's so many other moving parts that adds to why
as much as there's been a good team built around Saka. Like I said, man, Saka's carried that attack on his back for years. He's had partners here and there, right? Nothing really consistently. No one. First partner Lacazette, then Jesus for 6 months, Martinelli for 1 season, Havertz for 6 months. Hopefully these guys become consistent. But Saka's been there. That's the one thing Foden hasn't had, right? Foden hasn't been that consistent piece.
I don't know if we can say that about Foden. Foden's been pretty consistent. Like he's not been. It does in the sense of Saka starts and plays every game for us. But Foden's always been there.
Foden has always had guys with him. Always. You can't dispute that, can you? Really?
But I was just making that point about why Cole Palmer might never have guys with him. Saka's had guys with him. He's had the Ben Whites for the last 3 years of Saka's great success.
So now we're talking about right backs. The conversation is about carrying attack on their back.
It's not about carrying attack. It's just about the level of players that he's playing with. Saka's played with a good level of players for 3 years. I'm talking about the
attacking players and what the duty on you to score goals and get assists.
Yeah, I think Saka and Odegaard have carried that burden for us.
Cole Palmer in his first season had a striker that scored 14 league goals.
But
Saka in his first season had a striker that scored 4.
My parallels between Cole Palmer, Foden, and Saka aren't to do with Havertz, aren't to do with Jackson, aren't to do with... It's themselves, the eye test of them.
Come on, man. That's all a part of it, isn't it?
I try and remove that stuff to make it an easier way for me to digest who's the actual better player, because
if you remove all of that stuff, it's definitely easier to say Palmer and Foden are on that level. If you remove all of that, for sure.
That's what I'm doing.
Right? But that's like saying that, if Saka was playing down a relegation team, then we can put him in these conversations. We can't put Kudus in these conversations. We can't put Mbeumo in these conversations, can we?
But even on ability alone, I don't think Mbeumo can chat to Saka. Mbeumo's a very good winger, but there's still clear levels between Mbeumo and Saka. There's still clear levels between, I would say, Palmer, Foden, and not like Max Christie.
Yeah, but I just think that's just a bad way to look at it, because you need to look at the team that they're in, who they're playing with. Like I don't know if you're trying to tell me that Foden carried the team on his back or whatever, but if your striker scores 27 league
I
goals,
think
I'm
the
not
issue
interested.
with saying the issue with always looking in the team arena is like we've just used the fact that Foden's played for Man City as a stick to beat him with because he has great players like Haaland, and then we've also just said that Cole Palmer, you know,
It's not a stick to beat him with
like
because you play in such a great team, that you should be putting up these numbers consistently, right? And that's not to say that Foden doesn't put up good numbers, relatively good numbers, but you can have a Foden season where he gets a 7-3, and Man City will still go and win the league. Right, that's that's a big difference between him and Saka. Yeah, if Saka has a season where he gets 7-3, there's absolutely no chance Arsenal win the league.
So I think what you value is the responsibility that Saka takes on in his team.
Yeah, 100.
But
highly,
but
highly.
that responsibility,
Palmer has that.
I think that like contributes to who is a better player. That's definitely. But when it comes to footballing ability, I think I take
when
that
Saka
away.
and Foden are on the same pitch on the same team at an international tournament, we know who takes the responsibility.
This is the exact point as to why I respect Foden but don't really rate Foden. Like I respect Foden's ability,
but you
for
said
sure.
he was the best.
I respect his ability for sure,
but you don't really rate him.
I think he has the best ability. But my issues with Foden, and I said it, Euros, when the responsibility is on you to provide for your team, the responsibility is on you to create, to score, to X, Y, and Z. Sometimes Foden is inconsistent. Sometimes he's there. Sometimes he's not. When the responsibility is on Saka, he's there. Saka's there for us to score, to get the goals, to turn the game around. You could say the same from the short sample size of Cole Palmer.
Yeah, you can. You can.
And this is why I respect him. That's my type of football.
But that's why. But the
guy that will take on the
mantle. What I'm saying.
But I can't use
the only
that.
thing with Palmer is I need to see 4 years.
I can't use that stick to discredit Foden's ability.
But you said he's the best player.
He is the best player
of those three.
I'm not using that stick to credit his ability. His
but then
footballing
he needs
ability.
to rise.
His Foden's ability to take on responsibility.
You just said he's inconsistent.
Foden's ability to take on responsibility is a mental piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a factor, a massive factor.
Which is a factor of somebody's footballing ability. But if I'm still like rating them as footballers, the fundamentals, that's why I kept asking you fundamentals of the game. I think Foden's top.
This is such a hipster footballers and purists and
it's true.
ability.
It's true. You can combine them.
Hipster,
you can
can we just have a conversation about who's the best player?
But in what context? It matters. What context?
No, because it won't matter if I asked you Palmer or Salah or Foden or Salah. It won't matter. Salah is the better player. Fact. Guaranteed.
Salah is the better player.
It won't matter if I ask you Mbappe or Foden. It won't matter if I ask you Vinny or Foden. You're just doing this with this conversation because it gives you that leeway.
No, the reason I'm doing this is to negate all of, because like Palmer, Mbappe, or these guys that you mentioned, they don't play in the same leagues, they don't play in the same teams. You're just trying to say who's done the more for the most.
Like you could tell me that Foden's a more pure footballer than Vinny. Yeah, Foden's more pure. He looks better, looks more aesthetic.
That's what they say about Saka.
Who's the better player? Vinny. No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah. I respect Vinny's game. Do you know why I respect Vinny's game? Vinny takes on the responsibility.
So I ask you again, because I asked you this before and you did put Foden first. So is Foden still first if I asked you who's the best player out of these three?
And I'll give you the same exact answer. I'll give you the same exact answer. If we're talking football ability, I've got tons of respect for Foden. If you're talking who would I choose? Who would I start?
Okay, so if I ask you who's a better player, Foden or Vinny?
Who's a better player?
Yeah.
Foden or Vinny? I think Vinny's a better player than Foden, but I do think it's pretty close.
So you can answer that very normally.
I think it's pretty close though.
But we don't need to go into these rabbit holes of what does this mean and what does that mean and these hipster conversations. I can just ask you who's a better player and you can give me an answer.
Yeah, but I agreed. But I also think
if I asked you Saka or Foden,
who's a better player, football wise?
But this didn't come into it with Vinny.
Yeah,
you see what I mean?
But also the only reason I say that is I think to get Saka in there, because I do probably think that Foden is a better player. For all things considered, I think Foden probably is a better player than Saka right now. So the reason I'm saying this,
I have absolutely no issue with you saying that. You could put Palmer number one, I wouldn't care. But I'm just trying to find why we now have to go into these nuanced conversations about footballing ability when it's Vinny. We can just can we not just get the
true?
Same
the reason
answer?
we have to go into these conversations is for me to get my guy in there.
Okay.
For me to get the bias guy in there, because
and this whole time you've done nastiness trying to pitch my Arsenal bias.
Yeah, no, but you do have an Arsenal bias because I do think that saying
look,
I think
I'm
saying
not going
that
to
Saka,
deny that I don't have an Arsenal
Okay.
bias, right? Because I'm an Arsenal fan, but I've proved. I literally said, yeah, if Havertz scores 27 goals, I'm not going to come here and say that. I genuinely believe, remove the bias, yeah, and it's there to prove it with the numbers he's put up compared to the rest of the players in the team. Saka has been Arsenal's go-to guy. He's been Arsenal's best attacker. Arsenal are where they are, right? Because of a lot of things. But in terms of being in a title race, they're there because of the goals and assists that Saka
I
provides.
disagree. I think we're in a title race for our defense.
Yeah, but bro, if we don't score goals,
if we don't keep clean sheets,
you can't be in a title race.
If you don't keep clean sheets, you don't in a title race either.
But what? So we're just going to 0-0 every game,
bro. Bro,
we've been conceding goals. Last year we were conceding goals.
Do you think we lost the title for our attack or our defense last year? Because you've been saying
we lost the title because of our attack.
So I think the reason we're in these title races is because of our defense.
But if you take Saka out of that,
we're worse.
We are not in a title race.
We're worse.
Bro.
If you take Gabriel Saliba out of that,
title race. If we take Saka out,
it depends on who you replace him with.
Sterling. If Saka gets injured,
no.
Saka gets injured, are we in a title race?
Yeah, we're not. But that's my point. The reason I try and remove all the other things is to judge these players.
What were you saying off air? If Saliba and Gabriel go down, you'll back Timber and Calafiori to hold it down.
I will back Timber and Calafiori to hold it down, but I still,
there's no Saka. There's no one to come in and hold it down when Saka's out.
From last season before, we've seen what happens if Saliba and these guys go down. We've seen what happens. We don't win the title. Saka's been there for us. We don't win the title. We performs in those games. We still don't get.
But with no Saka, we won't win the title.
The reason
we know that's a fact.
But we can say that without a lot of guys. Without Gabriel, I don't think we win the title. Without Saliba, I don't think we win the title. Without Raya, I don't think we win the title. Yeah. You know, so it's like Saka is a very, very, very key piece. Could argue the main piece. I'd happily say the main piece in this Arsenal football team. But if Arsenal are going to get over the line, it will be off the back of Saka. But definitely, what we are now is our defensive success.
I think out of all the players, he's the one player that you don't want to lose. Genuinely, out of all of them, Rice, Saliba,
100%,
100% player you don't want to lose.
I think
because we both said this, bro. This Arsenal attack without Saka, I think it looks quite scary.
Yeah, I do. But I've been saying from last season, I think Odegaard carried for the final 6 months of last season. I thought Odegaard was doing a phenomenal job. I thought he was better.
We have not missed Odegaard
than Saka, and I think that is
we haven't though, have we?
A cheap excuse. Because I think we have missed Odegaard. I think the reason these teams are even getting these goals, I think the reason that we have been unhappy is because we've missed Odegaard.
Bro, if we didn't have Saka in these games, you would see the difference.
It's my whole thing, it stays exactly the same. I put in the stipulations to give Saka his flowers and give him some credit. Because if I'm combining player attributes and career success, I'll give it to Foden. I understand why you give it to Saka, but I think just because Saka's been the main guy in title challenges doesn't make him better than people that have actually won titles or hit the same levels as Saka. Because I think...
But you'll say Saliba's better than Van Dijk.
Apart from Arsenal fans...
But where's the consistency? You see what I mean?
Apart from Arsenal fans, you'll say, yeah, Arsenal were good. They finished second and, you know, they put in a good fight. Saka got 16 and this. And Chelsea fans will... Palmer scored more goals, got X amount of assists, finished with the exact same amount of trophies as Saka. Who's to say? That's why the Man United fans will say, oh, we had a better season when we did this and we did that. Saka could be a better player than these guys, but I think it's got to be for more than reasons of just...
Yeah, so that's fair. But then if I ask you Saliba or Van Dijk, your answer has to be Van Dijk, right?
I think Saliba is a better player than Van Dijk, I really do.
But Van Dijk's won trophies.
Yeah. Van Dijk has won trophies.
So you'll happily level that against Saka. But now when it's Saliba and a player you don't like, with the consistency's not there.
All I'll say about this piece is the reason I think Saliba is a better player.
If we want to talk about Konate and Gabriel, we will say Gabriel, but Konate's got the trophies.
So this is my point of the stipulations. Are we talking player ability?
So I need you to be consistent.
Are we talking player ability, or are we talking?
I've asked you the whole time who's the best player.
No.
When I asked you Vinny or Foden, you weren't asking me about.
No, I think Saliba is a better player than Van Dijk, but I think that purely for bias reasons. Like, I will admit that. Okay. I think Saka is a very, very good player, but non-biased.
So you can see that there's inconsistency.
But it's literally about whether I remove my bias or whether I accept my bias. accepting my bias from Saliba. I think Saliba is better than Van Dijk on a pure bias thing. Once Saliba gets the trophies,
yeah,
big
yeah.
thing.
But
Same,
at the moment,
same thing with Saka. I
yeah.
put Saka in the exact same conversation.
But you would have Foden above Saka.
I would have Foden above
because
Saka
of the trophies, but you'll have Van Dijk.
No,
you'll have Saliba
no.
above Van Dijk.
I don't have Foden above Saka just because of the trophies. I have Foden above Saka because of the trophies combined with his ability. His ability has actually spurred his team on to win trophies. And yes, his team is better than Arsenal's team.
But you won't say that about Van Dijk.
But Van Dijk has won the trophies.
And Van Dijk has the ability to spur his team on to win trophies.
Yeah, that's why.
But he's not better than Saliba.
But I've said he's better than Saliba from a non-biased perspective.
He is. Okay, at least there's consistency. Though.
I literally just said the only reason actually Saliba is for bias reasons and agenda stuff. But speaking non-biasedly on both topics, I think Foden is a better player than Saka for combined ability and trophies won.
So if we're speaking non-biased, can we say that Konate is better than Gabriel? Or can you say that? Sorry, because I'm not saying these things. Can you say that?
That Konate is a better player?
Yeah.
Nah, because I actually think on a sliding scale, Gabriel is a better player than Konate. That the trophies that Konate has won doesn't level it out. It's not that Konate has won this trophy, and I think Gabriel's abilities as such, and Konate's abilities as such, and even with Konate's trophy, it doesn't quite make him on par with Gabriel. If I had to choose, I'd still choose Gabriel.
Okay.
Konate's had a good career, and I do separate. I place a lot on trophies. I do because I think that's what football's all about.
Yeah, 100%.
So I don't. If I'm gonna put my Arsenal guy in conversations, it can't just be because he's drawn Arsenal close to winning trophies, bro. Close doesn't cut it. You need to win the trophies.
Yeah.
Put your name in the big boy conversations. Shit on Foden, shit on all of these other guys, shit on the Palmers, shit on myself, the Kuduses, shit on the Bremos. Remove yourself from these conversations, and I think the only way to truly do that is to get the trophies. And Harry Kane is the only anomaly.
No. Saka's already removed himself from those conversations.
He's the only anomaly.
This is just the disrespectful part, right? Because is Palmer in conversations with Gibbs White and these men?
Wait for Palmer to have 2 games without a goal or assist, and they will be there. This is how fickle football is.
Yeah, but bro, you don't need to be fickle. You don't need to be
every
putting
fan,
him with Mbeumo.
No, I think every fan is fickle. To be fair, the only one I've said is, I think, and it's not even a numbers thing. I just think Kudus, and I will stand by it, I think Kudus has the ability to change games to West Ham, to be their guy, their decisive man, the same way Saka is for us. That's it.
Kudus isn't even West Ham's best winger.
Foden is not playing wing anymore.
We're not talking about Foden, though.
Sorry, not Foden. Bowen's not playing wing anymore.
He played winger on the weekend.
Yeah, but
Antonio can't get out of the team.
He's been doing the hybrid thing with Antonio. He's been doing the little, I'm going to move you inside, because Kudus has been playing off the right.
No, Kudus played off the left.
But that was only on this weekend. The weekend before, Kudus played off the right. You're the vet.
Look, Lopetegui tried. But the Chelsea game, Antonio up top, Bowen on the right.
But that was 3 weeks ago.
Right? After Chelsea, they played Brentford.
Bust up, Kudu on the right. Antonio, he was hooked, to be fair. He was hooked, but he played off the right.
Hooked with Bowen up front. Last week, back to Kudus on the left.
So Lopetegui, what's he doing? What's Lopetegui doing?
And we know Antonio's been starting games.
No, Antonio needs to play. I think Bowen needs to play.
So Kudus isn't even the best winger at his club, yet they want to talk about him with Saka.
I don't think they want to talk about him with Saka. I think it's just appreciating that Kudus could be a guy for them. The same way Saka is a guy for us.
We can appreciate Kudus. We can appreciate Mbeumo, but we don't need to bring them to conversations they don't need to be in.
I think that's how people would look at the Saka and Foden thing. And I think that's my point.
And I've said the whole time that that's not crazy to me.
But it's crazy to put Palmer in the Saka conversation. But it's also not crazy to put.
No, it is crazy.
Okay. But you see the inconsistencies.
Why?
Because you think it's crazy that Palmer's talking to Saka, but you also think, you don't think it's crazy that Saka's talking to Foden, or
because Saka's been doing it for 4 years.
Okay, this is where we disagree. I think the 4 years part. I love the consistency from Saka, but I know what the game is about now. It's getting your hands. I think for Saka this year, it has to be getting his hands on the trophy. I don't want to go another year of Saka doing very good numbers in a decent outfit that just almost gets there, because it leaves him open. It leaves him open for a lot of criticism. How good is he really? Is he really going to get it over the line? And we agree, all the other pieces are in place. I think Saka needs a partner on the left wing. We gave Martinelli his credit today. He's played well. Obviously, Sterling, Jesus, these guys, they need to step up. But I think it's really, really, for me and Saka, I give him a lot of love. I give him a lot of credit. He's Arsenal's best player. I can have all of those conversations with everybody. But non-biased, speaking on what I think is a casual's mindset, I completely understand why a casual wouldn't want to call Saka world class. And there is an Arsenal bias from the casual. They don't really want to say we have a world class player. But until Saka gets that trophy, I'm not going to argue down guys about where Saka should be or what conversations she should be in. As an Arsenal fan, I know. But until he gets that trophy, the stocks are where the stocks are.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think, like I said, it's just I haven't seen Foden do what Saka's done and be the best player in an attack for 4 years running, and can put the team on his back. And I haven't seen, and I have seen Palmer do that. Right, Palmer did that last.
I think that's like, what kind of argument is Foden doesn't need to be like, he plays for Man City.
Exactly.
So are we using that to discredit Foden?
If we're talking about who's the better player, I think if
that's my point. Can we use that to discredit him? The fact that he hasn't been put in a position where he needs to be, because Foden's got the same goals and assists. It's just that other people have got more. Then now we're saying, do you know what? Because somebody else got more than Foden, he's not the best player.
Yeah, because it's harder to do what Saka's did.
I think it's harder to win the trophy. I think it's harder to win the trophy.
I think if Arsenal had a striker that scored 27 goals, they would win the league.
Yeah,
that's a fact.
I don't know if it's a fact.
It is because we've said that before.
City might go and get somebody that.
But we said that. We said that if Arsenal had Alvarez, they would have won the league, and Alvarez isn't scoring 27. But we've both said that. But
yeah, if Saka has a partner,
go back on that now.
If Saka has a partner,
we've both said that.
Yeah, but we say Arsenal can win the league. I don't think we can say it's a fact.
Like, no, but we said if Alvarez was at Arsenal, we both said that we would have won the league.
I think we would have won the league. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, but I just don't get the point of using the fact that Foden doesn't have to do Saka's job as a stick to beat him with. I don't get that.
I think Foden has had one majorly influential season at Man City, and that was last season.
Yeah,
I think Saka's had 4.
I agree that Saka's had 4, but I don't understand the correlation, because I think Foden has been good in City's title charges. His major influential season was last year, but even in the other games,
right.
In the 17-18 games, he was still scoring. In the 18-19 games, he was still scoring versus Liverpool.
He's been all right. I think in those years he might have had 10 or 11 starts.
But he's been influential from a young age. He's shown ability to
I don't know
change.
About influential.
He scored goals in these Liverpool games.
10 or 11 starts isn't influential to me. Influential to me is, you're putting up the numbers for across a 38-game season for 4 years consistently.
That's the bias coming in though, because I think.
But that's a fact.
But I think using that as
bias if it's a fact.
No, but using that as a stick to discredit Foden.
I'm using it to credit Saka.
Okay, but also discredit Foden, because you've said you're not that impressed because he hasn't had to do it.
I'm impressed with what Foden did last year,
and the other years before that, not so much.
No.
So you haven't think he's shown good ability, or?
No, I think he's shown good ability. He's been nice. He's been a nice player. I wouldn't say he's been influential. I wouldn't say he's the reason they went and won the league.
I wouldn't say that either.
I couldn't even really say that last year, that he's the reason they went and won the league. But I think he did what he needed to do last year.
Okay. I kind of understand, but also I don't fully understand. As I said, the piece about Saka being better than Foden, just because,
and that's not to mention that when they're both on the same pitch playing for the same team, we're not having this conversation, are we? Like, we know where it is.
Saka's the best right winger for sure. Saka starts over Foden.
Foden played as a 10 for England.
Yeah, no. Saka.
It doesn't. That's Foden's preferred position. That's where you think his best position is.
Yeah.
And what did you think of Foden's tournament?
Yeah, it was poor. It was very, very poor.
What did you think of Saka's tournament?
Good tournament.
And they were both on the same pitch playing.
And I would choose Saka over Foden, but I still don't use the same stick of just because Foden hasn't had to do Saka's work that he's a better player.
There's multiple facets to this.
Than Saka. That's my point. And I'm trying to get to a level playing field.
My point for taking Saka over Foden is not only because Saka's had to be that guy that's put the team on his back, which I think is harder to do than having a striker score 27 goals. It's also because we've seen them on the same pitch for the same team, and we know that, and there's been a clear difference between the two of them, right? That's another plus point for Palmer. Palmer's played well for England. Palmer's shown that he can be the guy for England. That's a plus point for him.
But
There's multiple things to it. It's not just one thing.
But the Palmer
it's
minutes,
not just the case of Foden's won the trophy, so he's better than Saka.
that's my point.
I know that is your point.
But the Palmer minutes,
But that's the only thing.
Palmer minutes in
For
the
me, there's
Euros,
multiple points.
the Palmer minutes in the Euros that you've given him credit for, are they not Foden minutes in the other campaigns? Man City won. Foden came on, contributed, played well as a sub.
No,
Didn't
but
really start many games.
Palmer, in my opinion, should have had more minutes at the Euros.
I think Foden, Man City, and the journalists were saying Foden should be starting more games for Man City. I'm not questioning. I'm just saying, if you're asking for consistency in arguments, you just said that you didn't really count too much of Foden's previous experience.
I said it's a plus point for Palmer because he's come on and he's made differences. He scored a goal in the final. Has Foden ever scored a goal in a final?
But he scored goals versus some of the greatest teams ever in the Premier League, they've said. The Liverpool teams that Klopp's put together for year on year. And if it was just one goal against one game versus Liverpool, I'd be like, yeah, calm, it's a bit of a mad, but he's done it more than once. And you're giving Palmer credit for stuff that you're not giving Foden credit for.
Yeah, but we are you really gonna compare international football to a 38 game Premier League season?
So should we just
Palmer has 6 games.
So should we just strike international football stuff from the record? Because you said you've seen them on the pitch together. So now does that not matter?
No, because those Saka and Foden, have played consistent minutes, a lot of minutes for England. Yeah, Palmer has not played a lot of minutes, and what did England play? 6 games. Euros,
yeah.
So and the minutes Palmer played, he played well, right? But over a 38 game league campaign, if Foden is getting 10 or 11 starts, don't bring him to Saka conversations.
I don't know. I just feel like we're kind of picking and choosing where the line is.
We can look at Man City, and Man City can win 6 of their first 7 games, and Foden doesn't touch grass. Yeah, fact. That's a fact.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
No, in fact, I understand where we are. There was a lot of importance, as I say. There's a lot of responsibility that Saka takes on that you give him credit for into his ability, which is a fair thing. I agree with that. But I'm not using that as a stick to discredit any of the others. As much as Saka does deserve credit for taking on the responsibility of being Arsenal's most creative and decisive player for the last 4 years, week in, week out, starting games, finishing games, being as good as he could be. I agree that Saka deserves additional credit for that.
And you agree the others haven't done that?
I agree that the others haven't done that. I would agree. Not in the same sense.
That's all I'm saying.
Not in the same sense that Saka has, but I just don't use that too much as a stick to be the others because they're not in that situation.
Yeah, but that's only one part of the argument.
Yeah, but all the stuff that we're saying, I think it's sort of the intangibles. Like, how much does that make Saka a bet? Like, if Foden was in the same position for Arsenal, would Foden be the guy for Arsenal? Would Foden go and get 19, 20, 25 goals in an Arsenal season where we do end up winning the league? Does he score the goals in the games that Saka didn't score his goals in? Like, it comes down to that kind of stuff as well. Like, we haven't seen that, so this is hypothetical.
And
how would
Saka
we know?
Went to the Man City team.
Is he 10x better? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
so those are the things that we shouldn't even bother arguing. What we should argue is what we've seen. The evidence is there. What we've seen from both these players, all 3 of these players, if you want to bring Palmer into it, for the last 4 seasons, and what they have done for their teams. That's what we can talk about.
Which would still
what they have done for their countries.
Yeah, which would still probably, but that's okay. You know what? I think this gets into ideology in terms of like career versus talent. When you're answering these questions, do you look at the career or do you look at the talent? And I think that's the crux of it all. Because I think I agree with you, career-wise, in terms of career accolades, achievements done at Arsenal, done for country, whereas Saka, he could be top, should be top potentially. But in terms of talent, I think they're all as talented as each other, and then it comes down to personal preference of what kind of talent do you prefer, what career accolades are more aligned with your sort of mentality and all this kind of stuff.
What I don't get is how we can have a conversation about Foden and Vinny, and I can ask you who's the better player, and you can just give me a straight up answer. But then I can ask you Foden or Saka, but you'll have to ask me 3 other questions about what I'm talking about.
Because I think Foden, I think the thing is with the Vinny Foden thing is, Vinny has, the way I'm looking at it, just as much, or I think Vinny has more natural ability, footballing ability than. Vinny has more natural footballing ability than Foden, and obviously has the accolades to go with it. So they're on par, you know. And I started off by saying I don't really like to compare Saka to Foden and Palmer. The only reason we do it is because they're English. But, you know, Vinny's a winger. Obviously, Saka's a winger. Foden and Palmer to me are 10s. So I have a clearer answer for you, because if I'm looking at it in its entirety, player ability plus accolades that I respect and, you know, would like to award to them.
But if I said Salah and Foden, you said Salah.
Salah and Foden.
You didn't ask me about the other questions. You just said Salah.
I would say Salah, but it's also difficult. And I know Vinny's still young.
Salah doesn't have more natural footballing ability.
I don't know if I would say Salah. Actually, no.
Foden.
I think Salah's footballing ability is disrespected. And this is a guy that's had a Salah agenda.
It might be disrespected, but I think you're just kind of doing that to not step over yourself here. Because come on, man, does he have more natural footballing ability than Foden?
No, he doesn't have more natural. But does
Saka
Saka have more natural footballing ability than Foden?
But that's my question. So when it comes to Salah, you can just say Salah's a better player.
So a natural footballing ability, do you think Saka or Foden has more natural footballing ability?
I think Foden has more natural footballing ability.
And who's had a better career, Saka or Foden?
So Foden's had a better career.
But Saka's the better player.
Yeah, Saka's the better player.
100%. So you see that
because natural footballing ability is like that is such a hipster thing that to me doesn't mean shit, right? Like Moussa Dembele, the biggest example of that, right? Everyone talks about the natural footballing ability that Moussa Dembele had. Never won anything, never actually nailed down a position, wasn't a cam because he didn't get goals and assists, wasn't a DM because he didn't have the defensive responsibilities. But natural footballing abilities, who gives a fuck about that? Yeah? I think that is so irrelevant to any conversation we want to have, unless we're having a conversation or who's a purer footballer, Mahrez or Salah. But that's not the conversation I'm trying to have.
No, I think
that's where you keep trying to take it. But I'm just trying to ask that is literally who the better player is. And when I ask you about Salah and Foden, you can just say Salah. But when I ask you about Saka and Foden,
but this is literally the difference between football fans, because you've just said to me that you think Foden has more natural ability and has a better career than Saka, but you think Saka is the better player. Yeah. I've just told you that I think Foden is the better footballer than Saka, but I would choose Saka over Foden. That's football.
But that's not my gripe.
That grey area.
I don't have a problem with that.
That grey area, that fickleness.
When I ask you Salah or Foden,
even Salah fan will have that.
You will say Salah. You won't ask me any of the other questions. But why are you asking me those questions with Saka? That's what I want to know.
Well, I want to, because Saka hasn't won the trophies. That's it. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, but Salah, you don't need to ask those questions.
You don't need to. The made men.
But trophies shouldn't be related to that.
The made men.
Because you're asking, you now need to ask me about pure footballing ability. So who's the better footballer?
So we're circling back to my same question. When you ask me who's the better player, I always ask you, are you saying footballer or are you saying career? And you're saying, I'm just saying player.
But I would say Foden's had a better career than Salah.
I wouldn't say that.
But he's won more.
Yeah, but I'm also counting the goal accolades,
a ridiculous
amount, the AFCON.
No, for me, when you ask career, the goal accolades and all of that just comes down to footballer. What are you as a player? When you ask me career, that is purely trophies. What have you won?
I think career.
If you ask me, has Jamie Vardy had a better career than Harry Kane? Yes, he has.
Yeah, I think for me, the goal stuff I put into career accolades rather, because I think a lot of footballers have the natural ability to score 25, but they don't.
Who's had the better career, Kane or Vardy?
Vardy's had a better career than Kane.
But Kane's got way more goal accolades.
Yeah, but I think Kane's golden boots are career accolades. They are career accolades. They're just not trophies.
To me, that's just the resemblance of how good he is as a footballer. He's won golden boots because he scores goals.
But obviously,
that's not to do with his career. Career to me is just the trophies you've won. But I don't even need to separate that argument down to that. Right, when someone asks me who's a better player, Saka or Foden, I will say Saka. If you ask me who's had a better career, I will say Foden. If you ask me who's a better player, Salah or Foden, I will say Salah.
If anybody asks me, for me, it's always, if anybody asks me who's a better player between X player and Y player, unless it's so clearly obvious, I will always say in what context. If you ask me who's better between
question I will never ask when someone asks me who's a better is, are we talking pure footballing ability?
Bro, do you know where this came from? Ronaldo, Messi, who's a better player? I think Messi's a better footballer than Ronaldo. But I think Ronaldo is a better. I think Ronaldo's had a better career. And I used to say that up until Messi won the World Cup.
I don't think Ronaldo.
But now Messi has both. But that was where I would always split down the middle. I appreciate what Messi's done from a footballing perspective, but from a career perspective, an accolades perspective, I was looking at Ronaldo's accolades thinking, yeah, I wouldn't mind having those accolades. If I was to finish my career with that many Serie A's, Champions Leagues, La Ligas, all this kind of stuff, Premier Leagues, Golden Boots, Ballon d'Ors, all of this, yeah, I could make the case that Ronaldo, before the World Cup, bear in mind, this is when the argument was really alive, I could say, hey, I think Ronaldo's had a better. And from all of those debates moving forward, if somebody asked me between two players who I think are comparable, if you was to ask me who do you think is a better player between Salah and Hazard, I would still say Hazard. I think Hazard has better natural ability.
That's fair.
But I think Salah's had a better career.
But I haven't had to ask you based on who's a more pure footballer or who's better. You've just said you think Hazard's a better player. We didn't need to go into this footballing ability.
I think Hazard is a better player in the sense of he's had a natural footballing ability, but I think Salah's had a better career. I think Salah is a better player than Hazard now. If you're asking me to combine career accolades and natural ability,
for me, I will just never ask. If someone asks me who's the better player, I will never ask, do you mean footballing ability? And because to me, that's just me trying to find a cop out to give an answer I want. Yeah. It's like if you ask me about Mahrez and Salah, yeah, you could ask me either way. I would say Mahrez is a better player, in my opinion. And I would say he's a more pure footballer if you wanted to ask me that question. But if you just ask me Mahrez and Salah, who's the better player, I won't start going down this pure footballing ability route. I will just say Mahrez.
No, I would. I can guarantee I'd always take it down because for me, definitely, and maybe this is hipster, but like people's abilities as a footballer, I judge them differently to their careers because I place a lot of stock on trophies. And there's a lot of players who go after trophies. That's what they want. They have a career as such that they look to get trophies. And there's certain players that have very good ability, but are loyal to their club and they just want to show you what they can do. They want to be the man of their team. And I have to judge them differently. I don't lump them all into the one big porridge and say, you're this guy, you're better than him for X reasons. I can go on record, I will always have stipulations for footballers and who's better than who in what context, because that's football. Well, like it matters.
No, but if you ask me between two players, you could ask me between any two players in the world at any point who's a better player, right? And I won't give you, based on footballing ability. Or
I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying the exact opposite. I'm saying I will always, depending on if I think these two are really comparable, I will break down my answer and I will tell you
that it doesn't mean anything. That
for me, footballing ability does mean a lot. Like what you're actually able to do as a footballer. In terms of your natural talent, I place a lot of stock on that. And what you've achieved in your career, I also place a lot of stock on that.
What you've achieved in your career, 100%. Who's a more pure footballer? Who can do more 1-2s and who looks good in the rondos? I don't care about that.
Yeah, no, I definitely care who looks good in the rondos and who's good at 1-2s.
I just need you to do your talking on the pitch and show me what you can do, and that's it.
But doesn't that not contradict? Like I can't say that Palmer's not done his talking on the pitch. I can't say that Foden's not done his talking on the pitch. I never said
Palmer hasn't done his talking on the pitch.
And the reason I give
he's had one good season and where his team got Conference League. That's what I've said about Palmer.
Yeah, and that's the long and short of it.
I'm just talking facts.
Yeah, that is the long and short of it. And I think if we are talking facts, then we would probably have to go Foden, no?
For what?
For best player, for combining both ability and. Because we already said that.
Why is that a fact?
No, because we already said that he's the best natural footballer and he has the better career. We both agreed, and then we.
But being the best natural footballer doesn't make you the better player.
So you do see the difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you ask, that's what I'm saying. If you ask me who a better player is, I'm not asking you about natural footballing ability. I will just give you an answer.
Yeah, fair. So you think between Haller,
because unless the conversation is specifically, because you ask specifically who has more natural footballing ability, then I'll answer that question. But if you ask me who's a better player, I will answer that question. I won't go down the route of answering another question.
Okay, no, I see what you're saying now.
To that.
I see what you're saying now. I'll always break it down because I'll have to give two answers. Because there might be who I think is a better player.
Yeah, but I mean, in this case, but the reason you're doing that in this case is because of your bias, right? Because when it's Salah or Foden or whatever, we can just comfortably say that Salah's the better player. But because you want to put Saka in there, your bias is there. Like, are we doing it on this or whatever?
Yeah, I think the better is the Vinny Foden one because I think the reason I choose Salah's career is not done, but is his pomp years are behind him. Like we can see what he's been able to achieve.
No, but
Versus,
forget about that. Salah right now or Foden right now? Who's the better player? Forget about career, what they've done in the past. Who's the better player?
yeah, Salah's had a better season this season for sure, and that's if we're taking like discarding everything that's happened because of Foden's minutes. But I think there will always be stipulations for football questions. Ooh.
Yeah. There will, but it's certain ones. But look, we have spoken about this for ages. I don't even know how this episode is gonna look. I'm just gonna have to change the title to like Saka v Palmer v Foden.
I think the Saka v Palmer v Foden thing is a worthy debate.
Yeah.
You know, I think that you've got three great English talents here, and every fan group is gonna vie for why they think which one is better than the other. Every football fan is gonna have different reasons as to why they place one over the other. Some football fans will be black and white. Who's won more? Who scored more? Who's overperformed necessarily their standards or whatever it will be. It is kind of interesting to see other people's views. The way I will always break it down is what we've just debated for the past.
I think like the natural footballing ability thing is for me, the reason why for me that doesn't hold a lot of weight or a lot of stock, and I think it's quite irrelevant, is that in terms of natural footballing ability, I think Paul Pogba is one of the best midfielders we've seen in the league. In terms of natural footballing ability,
100%.
But he wouldn't make my top 10 all-time Premier League midfielders list.
But the reason we still talk about Paul Pogba is because of his natural footballing ability.
Yeah. But if we're talking about the top 10 best midfielders in Premier League history, Paul Pogba is not touching that list.
Yeah, but if we're making a list for top 10 natural...
Yeah, but that's not what I was asking you. I was just asking you about the best player.
So,
and you were bringing up natural footballing ability.
No, but okay, I fully understand, but I think your point is as if like it's not really like people don't really care about people's abilities. They just want to see what they've won. I think people do care.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying me personally, I don't really care.
Yeah, okay, and irrespective, I place a lot of stock on trophies. I think trophies is the end all and be all of football.
Yeah.
But because I place a lot of stock on trophies, is why I respect people's natural ability. I think people have the natural ability to get to certain levels where they could be like Pogba. His ability wise should be the most influential piece in title winning teams.
Yeah.
You know, but he never quite got to that for whatever all these other reasons. But the reason Pogba's still held in high regards, the reason people still talk about Adel Taarabt and Morgan Gampenison and all these Barclays men guys, is because ability at the end of the day also still does last in people's memories. Who was good, who was nice with it.
They won't talk about any of those guys as the best players.
In the league? Maybe not. No.
In their position.
Yeah, it's true, but they will still get a lot of love.
Yeah, they will get love.
Pogba, whilst he was here, he wasn't spoken of. He was spoken of as if he should be one of the best players. He was
in terms of the natural footballing ability that Paul Pogba had. He should have been able to make a top 10 all-time Premier League list.
But I feel like
that's how high his natural footballing ability.
I feel like he
won't touch that list.
I feel like he was always critiqued though, as if he was a top 10, top 5 player in the league, as if he had the ability.
No, but I'm saying ever, bro.
Yeah,
at the time, he genuinely might have been a top 5, top 10 centre midfielder in the league.
But I think your ability defines how you get criticized.
Yeah, it will do.
I think ultimately, as much as we play football for the glory, you know, why a lot of fans watch football is to see who's got it, who's talented. So I think there will always be a place for who was more naturally talented than who. The same way we say RVP is the best 9-10, Suarez is a better striker than RVP.
Yeah.
But the reason we love RVP is because we know his ability in the 9-10. And there will always be those conversations of players that certain fans love for their ability and not for what they've won, because they haven't won that much. They haven't won as much as the next guy or these kind of guys.
But if you ask me who's a better player, Suarez or Van Persie, I could give you a straight answer.
You could, but you've also put in stipulations for other answers. You yourself said you think RVP could be the better 9-10. Yeah, without me saying who do you think is a better 9-10, you said you could be, but that's just because you want to give love to your guy, and I respect that. I know that game.
I don't like RVP.
Well, his ability, maybe not as a person.
Yeah, I don't like him, but I'm not. I won't need to ask you. Oh, are we basing this on footballing ability? Or
I will always need the clarification. I won't need to ask you that.
I'll just give you an answer.
I could never live on a hill so black and white in football. I don't think I could. Especially when we're coming down.
It's not really black and white because they're just two different conversations. One, we'll talk about who's the better natural footballer. We can have that conversation. like you've asked me the question and I've told you Foden, so we can have that conversation. But if we're having a conversation about who's the better player, I don't need to go to this conversation. We can just have this conversation.
I agree, but I still
We
think
can have both conversations, but that natural footballing ability is one conversation, and then who's the better player is another conversation.
I think they are two separate conversations.
You can have the same answer for both, but there's not any overlap between them.
No, I don't think you can say that there's no overlap between natural ability and who's a better player, because I think a lot of what players are judged on is also their natural ability. Like no one says Maxwell.
No, but you have to realize that.
No one says Maxwell is.
You have to realize what your ability is.
No one says Maxwell is a great player. No one says that, you just say he's had a great career. He won everything he could win with PSG and Barcelona and all these teams, but no one says he's a great player. No one actually comes out and says.
No, but who's talking about Maxwell?
But that's my point about why natural ability links into great players. Like everybody wants the great players to also have the what everybody wants the great players with natural ability to have the accolades, so that we can sort of lord over them and say, yeah, the reason this team won is because they had Maradona, or they had Zidane, or they had this one guy.
I think Liverpool fans will be quite happy to laud Andy Robertson, and he's not naturally gifted, is he? He's not naturally a great player.
I think he's a really good player.
Andy Robertson.
I think he's a good left back. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good left back, but he's not naturally pure footballer and all of this.
No, I actually think he's got quite a good ability for a left back.
He's not a pure footballer.
Well, what more do you want from a left back? He's good at crossing. He's aggressive.
Is he more of a pure footballer than Cucurella?
Yeah. I don't think Cucurella's like super top level technically.
Okay, that's a weird one.
Like, what ball can Cucurella play that Robertson hasn't played?
A lot, I think quite a lot.
Nah, okay. I would have.
What did you say, Cucurella? When we were talking about Euros, that Cucurella might have the highest IQ of the whole Spain team.
I never.
Okay, you know what? I'm actually going to edit the clip.
Never say those words,
and I'll drop it here so you will know that
Michael never will
say things a lot, and then he'll come back and say, because I will find the clip. I will find the clip.
I will never say those words.
You said he might have the highest IQ in the Spain team. I said it as well, right? but I'm not denying it. Yeah, you said I will pull up the clip because I know it's there.
We'll see. You have to send that to me. I need to see that.
I'll show it to you straight after this.
I need to see that.
And what, will you come with an apology?
Yeah, I'll come with a my bad.
Okay.
Spain's worst player could be in like England's top 5, top 3 smartest football IQ players. Yeah. Like in terms of just IQ. 100%. Like Cucurella, who might be one of Spain's worst players.
No, his IQ's high.
He's got the triangles. He's got the rondos. Yeah.
But possession
waste.
Yeah.
When it comes to where I need to be, how I need to create space for others.
Rarely does Cucurella take a bad first touch. Rarely.
Cucurella knows how to create the space and all of that, where to be in the triangles, how to do the best for Nico Williams to make his game more effective. But I still just think that like Robertson's like I think Robertson is done now. I've been on record.
But this is where I think that your argument's kind of just changing to because if you've said that about Cucurella before, and I know you don't believe it, but for argument's sake, let's say you did say that. I'll show you.
Yeah.
Then you can't be telling me that Robertson's a more pure footballer than the guy who's got the highest IQ in the Spain team.
I don't know. Do you rate Spain's IQ?
If you're going to rate any IQ, it needs to be Spain.
But I still don't think that you can say that natural ability doesn't come into the best player conversation. I think it does.
I think they're two different conversations.
I think they can be two separate conversations.
Yeah,
but
I don't think you can give me an example of where it overlaps.
Who has great ability but isn't
where you can ask me the question of. To me, there will still be two different conversations.
So you don't think you can have a player with great ability and they not be a great player?
It can happen, but those are two different conversations.
And
one conversation is about a player's pure football ability, and one is about who's a better player. They're two different conversations.
I think they are two different conversations, but I do think that there is a link. I feel like a lot of people judge who's a better player based on ability.
I don't think there's any example of two players you could give me where I wouldn't answer the question separately. It might have the same answer, but they're two different conversations.
Between better player and better natural ability. Yeah. I think the easy one is always like Drogba and the players who have scored more goals than Drogba.
So what, Drogba and Darren Bent?
Yeah, who's a better player?
Drogba.
Who's better ability?
Drogba.
Okay.
They're two different conversations, though.
Okay.
Or Drogba and I don't know who's a technical Firmino. Yeah, I would say, and I think Drogba had very good footballing ability. It's not a slight on Drogba, but Firmino's was arguably top level. I think Firmino's footballing ability is some of the very, very top we've seen. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't really rate Firmino.
yeah. This is just for
But
this
I
example,
agree.
right? Like
Yeah.
you rate Coutinho. If it was Coutinho, instead of
Yeah.
Firmino, I think Coutinho has more footballing ability than Drogba. But that's that conversation. But who's the better player, Drogba or Firmino? Drogba.
I agree with that. I can actually agree that Firmino would have better player ability than Drogba, but I think I don't know how many goals Firmino scored, but say Firmino was to have scored more goals than Drogba in the league, I still think, and Firmino's won a lot, he's won everything. I still think a lot of people would potentially put Drogba casuals ahead of Firmino because they would say ability combined with legacy, what he's won, the goals he scored, and the games that he scored him. I think Drogba's a better player, and I think that's how the conversations intertwine with each other. It's not to say that you're wrong. I agree. I've just come to tell you. Whenever you ask me, I always break them down into two. But I do think that they feed into one another because I look at the accolades thing and the career accolades thing, and I say they've won this much, they've achieved this much, and what do I think of them as a player? Good, decent, whatever. Combine the two, best player. But
no, but what they've won is like a third part of the conversation. We don't even need to discuss that for this. We are just talking about comparing two players on footballing ability and comparing them for who's the better player. There's nothing more to it. It's those two things, and I think those two things will always be different conversations.
Okay, I will just probably have to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
I think ultimately it'd be interesting for the fans' POV who you think is one, the better player, two, any credence to the argument of like how you divide players between natural ability and career accolades. Yeah.
Or like natural footballing ability and best player, two different conversations.
How much credence do you give either or? Because I can understand people, like, as I say, I do agree that trophies is the be all and end all. So in many ways, I should only lean towards what have you done, what have you achieved. But because I place so much stock on trophies, I do have a quote unquote affair with guys who are very naturally talented, but for whatever reason, Pogba type of stuff, for whatever reason, they don't necessarily match their talent with what it should come with.
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to see other people's thoughts, man.
Yeah, let us know. But yeah, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week. Peace.